Are you for you? I mean, not just do you like yourself, but do you value yourself? Are you elevating yourself the way you're supposed to? Not to a point of self-aggrandizement, but not self-condemnation either. Now, that's the question we ask ourselves this last Sunday. Are you for you? Now, this can be a complicated thing, so let's talk about it for a moment. Yeah, I'm Pastor Brian. Welcome to this week's MidWay, the middle of the week e-newsletter for Lifeway Community Church. We have to ask ourselves, are we for ourselves? Now, in a culture that is all about self-gratification, that can be a tricky question to really to deal with. And so we looked at one of the actions of Jesus, one of the miracles of Jesus that really defines this question for us. Jesus, he was entering this village, and a woman who had been bleeding for 12 years. The ancient biblical Greek makes sure we know that it was a uterine bleeding, which made her incredibly unclean in their culture of the day. The laws of Leviticus made sure that no one could touch her or come within any real distance of her without becoming unclean, ritually, spiritually unclean. And people couldn't sit on her furniture, people couldn't eat food with her. Pretty much, she was isolated during this time of bleeding. And the bleeding was for 12 years. She lived on her own. And the gospel, they tell us that she had spent all of her money on doctors trying to find a cure for this. So we have this woman who is isolated, who is broke because of doctor's visits. If she had a husband, these were grounds for divorce. So she was either single to begin with or was probably divorced and without her kids now. I mean, this woman for 12 years is alone. Now, just put in perspective, after a couple months during the pandemic, we all lost our minds, right? This woman went 12 years. Good luck surviving that one, all right? So that's a little bit of perspective for you. So don't just write her off, because if last year was any real record of our ability to endure isolation, we'd have all lost it long before this woman. All right, so for 12 years, she's isolated, she's alone, she's impure, she can't even go to the temple, she can't worship, she can't do anything. And Jesus comes to her village, and he's on his way to cure someone else. And she actually has to risk basically everything, because she has to make her way through a crowd of basically men, which would have been unheard of in her culture anyhow. But she has to push her way through to get to Jesus just to touch his robe, which was another big cultural no-no. So this woman is doing everything wrong. This woman that should have stayed away on the margins comes to the center of town to meet this big celebrity who she would have, basically in that culture, she should have known to stay away from. She does everything wrong, takes great risks, risking actually not just getting kicked out of the village that they could have killed her for this, but she risked it all to be able to touch Jesus for the hope of healing. Now that is an example of someone who is for themselves. It wasn't all about self-gratification. It wasn't about self-indulgence, but it was recognizing her value, that she had this innate God-given value. And she was elevating herself to the point of taking the risks to bring wholeness and restoration to her life. So let me bring this back. Are you for you? Are you willing to take the risks for your health, your family, for your relationships, for your restoration, for your wholeness? Are you willing to take those risks? Are you really for you? That's a whole different question, isn't it, than just, do you like yourself? Are you happy with yourself? Are you really for you? That's a question we asked last Sunday, and that's the only question that you can answer. Now, as we look ahead to this Sunday, we're going to build on that. And I asked you to look at 2 Peter chapter 1, verses 5 through 7, and look at, really, if you're for you, are you taking the risks to grow? And what that looks like, how Peter talks about growing in a godless culture, in a pagan culture. What does that look like? We can really identify with a lot of the things that Peter talks about. So I hope you're taking the time to do that. And if you missed last Sunday, I hope this gives a little perspective on what we're talking about. What does it mean to be for you? Now, this Sunday, we're going to talk about another aspect of for. So I hope you're able to be with us. We have our life groups going at 10 a.m. on Sunday morning. Midweek, we have life groups at Wednesday at 1 p.m. and at 6 p.m. So I hope you're able to be a part of those. And again, Sunday morning, 10 a.m., 11 a.m. worship, 10 a.m. life groups. I hope you can be a part of it. And Lord willing, I'll see you then. God bless.